The stars had always seemed distant to humanity, eternal beacons of mystery and hope. That illusion shattered when the Zoryth Dominion tore open the skies above Europa. War came fast, faster than Earth could comprehend. In the blink of a generation, 1,000 years of peace ended with a scream across the void. The Zoryth did not negotiate. They harvested. Systems blinked out existence. Entire worlds turned silent tombs, their suns dimmed by extraction, arrays the size of moons. And then came humanity, late to the party and woefully unprepared. Yet, for all their disadvantage, they endured, not because of superior firepower, nor because of divine intervention, but because of one infuriating trait. They never accepted the inevitability of death. Commander Alina Voss stood on the observation deck of the Dauntless, eyes fixed on the swirling nebulae ahead. Her breath fogged the cold glass, not from the chill, but from the weight pressing down on her chest. The fleet behind her was patchwork, ships salvaged from losses, manned by the desperate. She was 37, but the war had aged her tenfold. Lines carved her face like scars made by time itself, and her cybernetic left I hummed quietly as it scanned the space beyond. "Fleet reports readiness," said a calm voice behind her. Dr. Kale Wren, the lead xenolinguist turned military advisor, walked up beside her, his ever-present tablet in hand. The former university professor had swapped lecture halls for war rooms, and his clothes for a tactician's uniform that still fit awkwardly. "They're not ready," Alina replied without turning. "But neither is anyone." He studied her face for a moment, the silence between them heavy with unspoken truths. Kale broke it first. "They found something. On Mars. Deep within the Valles Marineris. Buried under sediment dated to before the rise of human civilization." She looked at him, her expression unreadable. "Zoryth tech." "No. Something older. Possibly the reason the Zoryth stopped expanding this direction until recently." Alina raised an eyebrow. "Go on." "They call it a resonant core. It responded to human bioelectric signatures, specifically yours." Alina exhaled, slow and disbelieving. "That sounds dangerously close to prophecy." Kale gave a tight smile. "Or a trap. But General Ryden wants you there yesterday." She hated being pulled from the front, but she also knew that if Command thought it was important enough to reassign her, it wasn't a wild theory. It was a desperate gamble. And those were the only kind left. She turned back to the stars. "Get the shuttle ready." In the shadow of Olympus Mons, the Martian research station sat silent, the air thick with red dust and anticipation. Alina descended with a 10-person escort, every boot crunching against a regolith like thunder in a graveyard. The chamber was buried beneath 5 kilometers of ice rock composite. It had taken 2 months and 6 dead diggers to access it. The chamber wasn't Zoryth. The geometry was wrong, too organic. The walls pulsed faintly, as if the stone itself breathed. In its center stood the artifact, a floating prism of obsidian and light, gently spinning, whispering in frequencies a human ear couldn't quite detect but could feel. Dr. Asha Nuri, lead on the excavation, greeted Alina with unblinking eyes and a sleepless smile. "It knew you'd come." "Don't be dramatic," Alina said. "I'm not." Asha stepped back and gestured. "Touch it." The air shifted. The artifact flared. Alina hesitated. "Do it," Kale said softly. She stepped forward and placed her palm against the black glass. There was no pain, no shock, just clarity. A flood of impressions surged through her. Memories not her own, battles fought across galaxies, an ancient voice without language threading through her thoughts. When she pulled away, the artifact stayed lit. Her pupils glowed faintly with a shimmering light. She stumbled. Kale caught her. "Are you all right?" "I saw something," she whispered. "They beat the Zoryth once. Long ago, but they sealed the knowledge away. They feared what it would become. And now?" Asha asked. "It's choosing again," Alina said, "and it chose us." By the time the Dauntless returned to orbit, the artifact had been secured in the ship's containment core. Alina no longer needed scans to feel it near. It pulsed at the edge of her thoughts, guiding her, tempting her. The war had changed, not in the scale of its destruction, but in the whisper of hope it offered, they had found a weapon, not of brute force, but of insight, of memory, of control, and it wanted to be used. As the stars turned and the fleet reassembled around her, Alina stood at the center of something humanity did not yet understand. She was no longer just a commander. She was a key, and the lock had just begun to turn. The chamber thrummed with ancient resonance, a low hum that sank into the bones and refused to leave. Alina Voss stood at the threshold, her breath shallow, every muscle tense, as if the air itself had weight. Around her, the excavation crew kept their distance, their movements slow and deliberate, like priests in a sanctum they barely understood. The artifact at the center of the room pulsed with an inner light, cold, deliberate, aware. Kale Wren stepped beside her, wiping dust from his visor, his voice a whisper. "It's reacting to you again." She gave a slight nod, eyes fixed on the floating prism. Its shape shifted subtly, not morphing but refracting, bending light in impossible geometries. She'd seen it once before, back on Titan, but this chamber on Mars housed something deeper. The core was active now, alive in a way that defied classification. "I shouldn't be here," she murmured. "And yet it won't respond to anyone else," Kale replied. Alina stepped forward, drawn not by curiosity but by compulsion. The prism's glow intensified, bathing her face in violet and silver. A memory not her own flickered behind her eyes, an ocean of stars collapsing into silence, fleets screaming in languages lost to time, a dying world whispering its secrets into the dark. She blinked, staggering back. Asha Nuri caught her arm. The scientist's grip was stronger than expected, her eyes sharp and haunted. "It showed you, didn't it?" Asha said, "It doesn't communicate. It chooses. You're not the first it's spoken to, but you're the first who survived it." Alina tore her arm free. "This isn't communication. It's intrusion." "Not if you let it," Asha countered. Kale glanced between them, jaw tight. "We don't have time for this." The Zoryth advanced through the Agar system. 3 colonies already gone. Command thinks the artifact is our only leverage. Alina's lips thinned. "So what am I now? A weapon?" A pause, heavy and unspoken. Kale didn't answer. The ride back to the Dauntless was silent. Alina stared out at Mars receding beneath them, its blood-red dust swirling into nothing. She could feel the artifact in the containment vault below deck, humming, always humming. Not malevolent, not benign, just present, watching. Hours later, alone in her quarters, she allowed herself to listen, not with ears, but with something deeper. The artifact didn't speak in words, but in sensation, possibility. It pressed into her mind with curiosity and command. Images bloomed, schematics of forgotten ships, battle formations carved into nebulae, creatures forged not in wombs but in singularities, and always the Zoryth, not as conquerors, but as usurpers. They had found something once, something like this artifact, and twisted it. Where Alina felt resonance, they felt dominance. She clenched her fists. Her reflection in the mirror looked older now. Her eyes had retained that faint glow, the color of distant lightning. She was changing, and not just metaphorically. A soft chime interrupted her thoughts. "Enter," she said. The door slid open to reveal Lieutenant Ryan Solis, young, efficient, loyal to a fault. He was the only soldier on the Dauntless who never looked at her with fear or suspicion. "General Ryden's on comms," he said. "They want confirmation. Are we activating the weapon?" Alina stood slowly. The title still didn't sit right. Weapon. It implied choice. But what if the artifact had already chosen for her? She followed Solis to the command bridge. Every step felt heavier than the last. The bridge was dimmed, the crew quiet. All eyes flicked to her as she entered, then away again. On the central screen, General Ryden appeared, stern as ever, his face lined with too many sleepless nights. "Commander Voss." "Report." Alina hesitated. "The artifact is compatible. It responds to human interface, mine specifically." Ryden's eyes narrowed. "Can it be used in the field?" "I don't know yet," she said honestly. "It's not a weapon like you expect. It's intelligence, strategy, memory. It enhances perception, connects systems, could rewrite battlefield engagement completely. Raiden leaned forward. And control? Can you control it? Alina glanced at Kale, who stood silently behind her, then back to the screen. I can try. The general nodded. You have clearance. Take it to Proxima Gate. We'll divert fleet support to assist. This is our only move now. The screen blinked off. Alina exhaled. Kale moved beside her, voice low. Proxima Gate is a suicide zone. Then let's make sure we're the last ones who die there, she said. 2 days later, as the fleet jumped toward Proxima, the artifact fully integrated with the Dauntless systems. It responded to Alina's thoughts faster than speech, faster than code. She began seeing things, moments before they happened. The ship anticipated enemy movements with uncanny precision. During simulations, it evaded strikes not yet launched. But something else was happening too. The core reached deeper into her mind. Not hostile, but insistent. It wanted access, not to machines, but to her memories, to her intentions. Alina stood alone in the control chamber, facing the humming prism as the stars streaked past the viewports. I know what you are, she said aloud. You're not a weapon. You're a mirror. You show us what we could become. A pause. The hum deepened. Then let me show you, she said, what we are. Outside, the stars shifted. And for the first time since the war began, something turned to face humanity, not in conquest, but in curiosity.